So I'll just start. Welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join me today. We're going to take a look at our good to go raised box alarm. So this is a DiCAN manufactured product, one that we're really proud of, one that's been really successful in market. People really have gotten great productivity out of this product, and it's a raised box alarm, but it's an extendable component warning system. So it really works for a wide range of use cases, and I'll go over those a bit later in the presentation. But really the goal is simple. We're going to give you a clear picture of how it works, where it fits, how to decide between, the basic double, or the elite. So you can kind of see the whole product line and see what makes sense for you. It's really about preventing the kind of incidents that can go from like a close call to major damage in like the blink of an eye, right? So whether you manage like a dump truck or utility equipment, buckets, booms or pup trailers, the challenge is really the same. Operators need a clear warning before an unsafe position turns into like something dangerous or an expensive event, right? So we'll keep it practical. We'll review the system from sensing to warning to reporting, and I'll leave time for questions at the end. But as I said before I started, feel free to jump in the chat. There's a Q&A button at the top, so you can use that to share your questions, and I can get to those, as I can or at the end. But I'm always in the chat, so I'm happy to engage with you guys. And I guess just make sure it works. As I'm starting off here, you can go ahead and just say like, what raised component creates the biggest risk in your fleet today? Is it dump bodies, booms, buckets? What kind of things are we looking to track today? So feel free to throw that in the chat using the button at the top there, and I'll see those as they come in just to make sure the chat's working. So I'll just start with a quick intro, and then I'll give you some context on DiCAN. So let me just go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so we're just going to load that up. And so my name's Jeff Crothers. I'm a sales rep at DiCAN. I work with fleets, municipalities and organizations across Canada to improve safety and day-to-day fleet performance. So a big part of my role is helping teams find solutions that work, in the real world for operators, for managers, for people installing and supporting the equipment. So that's what I do. And before we get into the product itself, I'll give you just a quick sense of like what DiCAN does. Um, the next section is really just a quick backdrop on DiCAN, like, who we are, how long we've been supporting fleets, and why that matters when you're looking at a safety system like this. Some of you may know our two founders there. That's Mike and Diane, and they've been in the space for 25 years. So the short version is that, we're based in Ontario, Canada, and we've been working with our clients since 2000. Our team stays current through like ongoing training. That's a big priority for us. And we manufacture and supply 3 of our own products in Canada. So just as important as that, we partner with vendors who care about quality, long-term support, because these systems, the product is only part of the equation, right? Like the support behind it matters just as much. And we know that. And anyone here who's implemented a safety system knows that the implementation and buy-in from your operators, your managers, your supervisors, that's essential, right? So when we talk about good to go today, we're not talking about a one-off kind of gadget. We're talking about a system that's backed by experience, installation knowledge, and long-term support. That's where DiCAN really shines. So with that context in place, let me show you where we're headed today. So this is what we're going to talk about. This is the roadmap. First, we'll go over why raised component alerts matter. And this is not, we're not going to stick to this 100%, but this is just a rough overview. Second, we'll talk about how good to go senses, how it warns, how it reports. And third, we'll talk about how to choose between the different models. And lastly, we'll look at like what a deployment looks like. So installation footprint, accessories, and things like that. So, my goal is by the end of the day, you can answer 3 practical questions. What problem does this product solve? What version would fit for your specific use case, and what rollout would actually look like in your operation? So let's start with the problem itself, I guess. I mean, Raised dump bodies, booms, buckets, all these extendable components create one of those risks that can stay invisible right up until something goes wrong, and then it's too late. So the operator can be focused on a lot of things, right? There's traffic, there's the job site, there's the next move, and the raised component becomes a blind spot with really high consequences. So that's where good to go comes in. It continuously monitors the position of the component, and when it leaves the safe home position, the system warns the operator. Pretty simple, right? So on basic and basic double, you're getting a hardwired visual and audible alert. On elite, you had speed aware escalation. So that means that the warning becomes more urgent when the risk increases. So the big idea here is simple. You don't want to wait for the worst case scenario. Um, you want to give the operator immediate awareness in the cab. So using a system that's hardwired, it's tamper resistant, and it's purpose built to support safer operation and compliance. So how does the system actually work in the field, right? So good to go follows a very practical flow. It's not complicated. First it senses the position, a magnetic switch and a magnet detect when a body or attachment leaves its home position. So from there, the system triggers the in-cab module that drives light and sound alerts in real time. Then it warns the operator right where they need it. So that can be right in their line of sight with an optional dash mounted LED, in addition to the module itself. So beyond the cab, it can also report the event. So this is a key feature. It means outputting to your AVL, external lights or an auxiliary horn, depending on how you want to configure the fleet side of the system. But that capability is there. So the system is pretty simple, but it's complete, right? It senses, it warns, and it reports. If you move up to elite, you bring in the J1939 or the CAN, speed data, and more configurable behavior. While basic and basic double kind of stay focused on standalone alerting, and I'll talk about what the difference between basic and basic double is. So really just to consider which model fits this fleet or our use case. So it comes in 3 deployment levels. Basic is just straightforward standalone option, light and sound, a single component monitoring, simple fit for fleets that want a dependable alerting system without too much complexity. The basic double builds on that by adding a second switch and separate body outputs. So you have multiple lights, so you can see what's going on, and now you can monitor like a pup trailer at the same time as your main dump body. So that makes it a really strong fits for pup trailers. In elite, the most connected option, it adds speed sensing, your CAN data, and support for 2 components as well, and more advanced configuration. So I guess the best way to think about the lineup is not which one is like the best or whatever. It's more about which one is the best for this vehicle or this job, or this level of connectivity, whatever you need. Basic is great when you just want something that's going to work and get going. Double if you got multi-body going on, and elite is just if you're more for like dumping applications, where you need to be moving at a slow speed, but you still need to be reducing risk. And so we can spend just a little bit of time looking at what elite, or why elite gets chosen. It's the advanced speed aware model. It basically just uses vehicle data to make the warning logic a bit smarter. So it opens up a few advantages. It actually, when the elite can actually override the mute button. So I'll talk about a bit about the accessories, but basically there's a mute functionality as well. So if your operators need to mute the alarm for a reason, maybe they're moving or something like that, they can do that. But the elite, if it senses the speed is too high, will even override that. So it's really an escalation with the elite when the vehicle goes above that acceptable threshold of movement to cause an alert. So you can adjust the parameters through the built-in Wi-Fi application instead of needing to physically kind of connect to the system to change the parameters. So that's a neat feature that we introduced over this past year. And you can even bring in things like park brake logic, as I said, second switch inputs, and those different auxiliary outputs to augment it even further. And like all of our models, it enables really broad fleet visibility because they can all broadcast to third-party AVL. So just an incredible platform that we're building on here. And we'll shift to the fleet side, from the fleet side to the operator experience in the cab. So you can kind of see what that looks like. I'll just stop here for 1 second and ask if anyone has any different questions about the models. I just gonna, I don't know if I can even see the chat here, so I might have to look afterwards, or maybe Courtney can help me stay on top of that. So I'll just jump ahead. The in-cab behavior is designed to stay quiet when everything is safe and become very clear, when there's a risk. If the component is down and properly stowed, there's no active box warning. That's what you want. No unnecessary noise, right? There's enough noise in the cab, your screens, your road noise, and so we want to keep that reduced. But if the component is raised and the vehicle's moving, or the brake is released, the system gives a flashing visual alert along with a pulsed audible alarm. On the Elite, if it goes above that configured speed, it's like a solid, continuous, urgent tone. So the operator, it's unmistakable. That feedback matches kind of the seriousness of the situation, and that speed is configurable as well. So by default, I think we set it to 25K, and as you go over that, it will alert continuously. The momentary mute option is just for reduced speed, but on Elite, the speed logic would override that. So a big part of making that work consistently is the sensor technology itself. And here's probably a good time to stop and look at like what some of the other options are on the market. If you've ever looked at or considered having a system like this installed, you might have seen some of these other options. And so it's useful to kind of know what the difference is between theirs and what ours does. When you're looking at other ways to detect whether your equipment is in the right position, these are the common ones that are gonna come up. So hydraulic pressure switches. The reason why these switches fail is they're affected by variable pressure. As things move around, the pressure is not always going to be constant, and so you can't really trust that signal is going to be 100%. Usually it's enough, but it is variable, and things can change that depending, leaks, things like that, and all of a sudden it's not reliable. They can also run into stiction, so they can become stuck at the time of operation, so it can cause a delay in the signal. And especially if the vehicles are sitting over time, then they become very prone to failure, and they're harder to rely on in day-to-day operations. The middle switch, the whisker or limit switch, it's a different challenge. They rely on physical contact. That means they're subject to wear, the elements. They can become misaligned if they become bent or damaged, and they're not especially tamper resistant. I mean, looking at the one there, you can simply bend a limit switch if you were to try to defeat the system, or even inadvertently, and now we can't trust that signal anymore. So even if they work initially, they can create problems over time in real world fleet environments. So proximity switches, the last most common option, they also have their limitations. They typically have a short range. They're sensitive to gap spacing, so that can cause false positives. As boxes move around and sway, which is natural, we've got a big, heavy box on the back of your truck, and you're driving. It's got material in it. It's heavy. It's moving around. It's vibrating. Even that alone can cause false positives to alert. And they're not tamper resistant either. I mean, these can easily be defeated by a simple metal washer, tape it on there, and now it will never alert even if the box is up. So that means even just small changes to the setup or the conditions, the weather, things like that can affect performance. So when you step back, you look at these common solutions, the pattern's pretty clear. They can be inconsistent, vulnerable to wear. Anybody who's tried to deploy a solution like this knows that these things are usually coming in multiple times a year to be replaced and swapped out depending on time of season and things like that. So over the long term, it's important to look at something that's really built for durability and consistency. And so that's why we've chosen to make ours rely on magnetic switches. So one of the reasons why Good to Go is dependable in the field is the magnetic switch design. So it's a rhodium non-contact magnetic reed switch. So nothing needs to touch, it just needs to be close. It's potted and sealed in nylon glass fiber reinforced polymer. So it's incredibly tough and durable in the elements, with an IP66 rating. So not to get too technical, but in more practical terms, that means it's built for the environment that these vehicles actually work in. So whether that's dirt, weather, vibration, just daily wear, tampering, it's this thing is going to be a lot more durable than something like a limit switch or prox, right? So it's a ground-based switch, so doesn't require any power. Once the ground loop is broken, either by a raised box or tampering or something like that, it's going to alert. That redundancy creates trust in the system because it's non-contact. It's designed to stay ready to report without the kind of mechanical wear points that can create headaches over time. So, I mean, I guess simply like when we say continuous monitoring, the reliability of the switch is a big part of that promise. It's redundant, it's tough, durable, weatherproof. This thing's going to last. And that's really all that I have on the switch. It's like I said, it's not an overly complicated system. It's pretty straightforward. If there are any questions about that, definitely don't hesitate to share those in the chat or even afterwards, and my team can connect with you to talk about really into the technical nitty gritty if you need to. But I think that's a good point, probably to pivot, talk a bit about what installation and deployment could look like for your fleet. From a deployment standpoint, Good to Go is designed to fit inside the driver cockpit with a quick connect wiring and flexible sensor placement. So really robust, and it's really hard to mess it up. The in-cab module is mounted where the driver can see the warning light and hear the tones. The switch and the magnet are aligned at the front of the dump body or extendable component. And the mute button, when used, is dash mounted within easy reach for controlled silencing. There are also accessories that let you tailor the system to the application. So, there's a park brake switch kit, so we can use that to trigger the alarm. There's the secondary magnetic switch kit for, multi-body applications. There's the 4-inch auxiliary LED, so increases visibility of the alerts. And so there is some things that we can add on there, and those apply to all of the products in the lineup. And the installation footprint is practical. It's meant to be, visible to the operator, adaptable to the vehicle. It's flexible enough to support, different types of equipment without turning the install into like a huge project. It can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be. Before we move on, it's worth highlighting that the value here is not just in the solution itself, but in how DiCAN can bring it to life. I think here I might have not included one slide, but that's okay. I'll talk about that after. We'll just jump ahead and talk about fleet visibility. So it's kind of where Good to Go becomes more than like an in-cab warning. It's got connected alerts, reporting. You can timestamp, box up events on the map. This is incredibly powerful. You can receive instant alerts for fleet managers, use exception reporting for coaching and trend review. So, I mean, just think of it as a fleet manager. If an alert was to sound in the field and you don't have it connected to AVL, it's like that old adage, if a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it? In this case, we would hear it. We'd have that connected to AVL, and we'd ensure that an alert is provided to a manager, or a report can be generated showing all the times that this alert has gone off. So it provides some record of what happened with the system. It can connect to all third-party AVL platforms that can accept an auxiliary input. So, I mean, it's available in the Geotab marketplace. We're a partner of theirs, and really, it's pretty universal. So the value here is really just visibility. Instead of safety only living with the operator in the moment, you can bring it into the manager workflow. So better oversight, better coaching, and better documentation for identifying those risky patterns and behaviors. And because this system is flexible, it can be used across a wide range of equipment. It's not limited to one vehicle type. So the same warning platform can be used on dump trucks, roll-off container trucks, hydro utility double booms, sewer suckers. I mean, the list goes on. Pup trailers is a huge one, of course, cranes, excavator buckets. So it really is a wide-ranging application. And that matters, right, for fleets, because standardization has real value. If you can use one warning approach across multiple applications, that means your training's easier, Support is easier, rollout becomes more consistent. We've got this on our dump boxes, we've got this on our cranes. It's all operated the same way, and so that reduces the likelihood that we're going to run into issues there. And of course, the slide highlights two things that matter to many fleets here in Canada. It's made in Canada, and it supports the Highway Safety Code compliance. So no cross-border procurement confusion going on. It's made right here at home. And once you've decided this is the right product for us, this is going to fit, the next question is like how confidently you can roll it out. So DiCAN backs Good to Go with warranty and deployment support that's meant to reduce friction after the sale, not just before it. You have a lifetime manufacturer's warranty on components inside the module housing, a 2-year warranty on external cables, switches, magnets, connectors, and a 1-year installation warranty when the system is installed by DiCAN certified technicians. Add to that certified technicians, shipping across North America, and direct customer service support. The message is pretty clear, right? The goal is to help fleets deploy this with confidence and keep it working. We've been doing this, for a long time for a long list of clients, and we know how to make this thing work. For many of my clients, the support piece is like what really turns a good product into a great rollout. We've got a great team that really helps with onboarding of our new clients and rolling these things out, putting together a staged plan. Something as simple as a one vehicle implementation might not require a huge onboarding plan, but we'll work with you to figure out kind of what level of support and training is needed and make sure we provide that. And really, I'll wrap on, I guess, a simple idea and then open it up for questions. Good to Go is really about one thing. It's giving operators a clear, immediate warning before a race component becomes a serious event. From there, the choice is about fit. So just making sure that we got the right system and for the right application, and then the right configurability. If you're looking at this for your fleet, the best next step is probably to just match the application to the right config, and you can work with us to talk through what a rollout would look like on your vehicle. And that's really it. That's Good to Go in a nutshell. Like I said, it's not overly complicated, but it does the job. It does the job well and pretty simply. So I just want to thank everyone for your time today. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any, and if not, feel free to follow up with us. Courtney, I see your hands raised. If you want to jump in, go ahead.
Yeah. Jeff, so I got an email from one of the participants and they said that the chat wasn't working for them. So I just wanted to say if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you if you did want to ask anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, possibly there's a issue in the chat. But yeah, happy to unmute anybody if you have any questions. And like I said, if not, certainly follow up with us after. Courtney's going to put together these presentation slides and shoot them out in a follow-up email. And so that'll be a good time if you have any questions to shoot those back at us. And Courtney will reach out to me or someone from the team if there are any super technical things that we need to get into. And definitely looking forward to meeting with anybody who has any further questions about what a rollout could look like. That's pretty much the bulk of what I do, is just sit down with fleets and look at applications and try to find the best solution. So definitely tap in with us because we're here to help. Oh, Richard, see your hand up there. Nice to see you.
Hey, how are you? Just a question. How far along is the ministry on making this mandatory in Ontario? Because I know there was some discussions in the past year over it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've heard that too, and there's always chatter about that. We only know of what happened in Quebec, of course, several years ago with their implementation of a requirement for a system like this. And this is actually why this product was designed. So it was designed to meet that specification. Of course, in BC of June, in June of 2024, they also rolled out similar legislation. And so there was a big push for operators in BC to have a system like this installed. But no official word yet on what's going on in Ontario. Given all the infrastructure strikes in the news, hopefully sooner rather than later, and we'll be ready for that. But it never hurts to be prepared and to be ahead of the curve, because from what I heard, it will be coming eventually. So
yeah, The other question is, we already have your system on board on our fleet. The link to our existing GPS systems, is it pretty easily to link in?
Yeah, very simply, we might need to add, depending on the vehicle, it might already have the necessary harnessing required we basically just need a couple extra 12-volt inputs, really just one extra 12-volt input to connect to into your existing Geotab system. So the vehicle may have that already. It may not. If it doesn't, it's no big deal. We can supply it. So that'd probably be perfect for us to connect after and maybe just see which truck you're thinking about. And then we'll probably have a record given, we've likely done those installs and we'll be able to give you a good recommendation on how to proceed with that. But fairly simple.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question. It looks like we may have reached the end. I don't see any other questions. So there's some information there. Of course, there's our phone number. And our email, or sorry, that's just the URL where you can check out more information about the product. And the email that you're going to get afterwards will be the one that you can reply to for more information. So looking forward to hearing from anybody who might have some questions about the Good to Go. Anything else from my team?
I think we're all good. Yeah, we'll send out the recording and follow up info. Thank you, Jeff.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you for joining.
Thanks for the presentation.
Of course. My pleasure.